In this exercise, I'm going to show you how to retouch blemishes, how to get rid of things like scars and wrinkles and pimples and all of those facial defects that we're so immensely proud of, how to absolutely blast them away using the healing brush and the patch tool. I'm working inside of a document called bluebeard.jpg that comes from the PhotoSpin image library, and it's found in the exercise files folder. I'm going to select this tool right here, the Spot Healing Brush tool. And it's a fairly miraculous tool. I'm going to press the right square bracket key to make my brush larger, as we're seeing me do here. And what it allows you to do is just paint away areas of the image. So for example, if I click at this location right there, I will replace that area with a different portion of the image. So what Photoshop is doing is it's cloning from one area to another area and then mixing the two areas together in order to create a seamless blend. And it's deciding the source area, that is the area that it's cloning from, automatically when you're using the Spot Healing brush. All right, I'm going to press the left bracket key a couple of times to make my brush smaller. And then I'm going to click on this area in order to replace it. That worked out very nicely. I'll click here. That gets replaced, but not so nicely. Notice that. If I go ahead and zoom in, I've created a kind of wound in this area. So we've gone from, if I press Control-Z or Command-Z on the Mac, we've gone from a blemish to, if I press Control-Z or Command-Z again, this little wound. And what's happened is you can tell that the source point isn't all that far away. It's right there. So I went ahead and cloned this area onto this area in order to create this sort of cut. All right, so let's go ahead and undo that modification. If you start running into problems with the Spot Healing brush, as you're bound to, because it's a fairly random tool, then click and hold on the tool to bring up a flyout menu and choose the Healing Brush tool, which is slightly harder to use, but it also gives you more control. And here's how it works. You go ahead and press the Alt key here on the PC or the Option key on the Mac, and then you click in order to set the point from which you're going to be cloning. Then you go ahead and release the Alt or Option key, and notice you get a preview of your brush. This is what you're going to be painting with. And then you paint over the area that you want to replace, and you release. And notice what a great job it does of blending those two areas together. Now, it's not altogether perfect necessarily, but it's pretty darn good. And if you end up with details that don't really make sense, like this area right here, then go ahead and Alt-click or Option-click in order to set a different source point. Then I'll go ahead and make my brush a little smaller by pressing the left bracket key, and then I'll paint over this area like so, and it's looking better. And it's going to look awfully better when we start zooming out here. All right, and this is how the tool works. You just go ahead and Alt-click or Option-click at a location, paint in a different area. You're generally better off keeping your source and destinations pretty similar to each other. So in other words, you Alt-click fairly close to the location where you paint. On the Mac, that would be Option-click fairly close to the location where you paint. All right, what about some bigger defect like this? That's a good region to fix with the patch tool. So I'll go ahead and click and hold once again on the healing brush, and I'll choose the patch tool from the flyout menu. And then I'm going to drag around this area. This is called lassoing inside Photoshop. I'll lasso this area in order to select it. And notice that I'm selecting well outside of this thing, this mole. Next, I'll drag this region like so to a better area, to the area that I want to clone. So in other words, I'm selecting the destination and then I'm dragging it to a better source. And then I release and I end up peeling that area away. Now I'll click off so that I get rid of the marching ants that were surrounding that selection. We still have a little bit of weirdness going on right here, so go ahead and select it and drag that to a different location like so, and then release, and so on. So really, healing is a matter of hitting different locations inside the image over and over again. I'll show you one other thing, a very cool thing that you can do with the healing brush tool. Let's go ahead and switch back to it here. And I'll also make sure to deselect the image. I have a little selection going. I'll go up to the select menu and I'll choose the deselect command to get rid of that. Let's say I want to take this good eye and I want to paint it over the bad eye over here on the left-hand side. I would go ahead and Alt-click or Option-click inside the good eye. Then if I were to just start painting, I'll make my brush bigger by pressing the right bracket key a few times. If I were to just start painting, notice I'd paint a, whatever it is, a right eye into the left eye area. Of course, I'm painting his left eye into his right eye, but whatever it is, it doesn't look right at all. So let's go ahead and undo that modification. I'm going to go up to the window menu, and I'm going to choose Clone Source to bring up the Clone Source panel. Now, it's a fairly technical panel. Just bear this in mind. You can flip the source onto the destination by changing the width value right here to negative. Just change it to negative 100, just like that. And I'm also going to slightly rotate my source to negative 6 degrees, like that. And then I'll press the Enter key or the Return key on the Mac. And I'll make my brush way bigger so that we can see how it's going to fit. Looks like it's going to work out pretty well. Now I'll make it smaller again by pressing the left bracket key, and I'll click just to lay down the source, just to create a relationship between the source and the destination. Then I'll go up to the options bar up here, and I'll turn on Aligned. So turn on that Align checkbox, and now paint that right eye over the left like so. And once you release, notice you'll get a nice smooth match between the two. And I'll now go ahead and close that clone source panel. And this is our healed image, looking pretty darn good. If I were to go to the File menu and choose the Revert command in order to load up the original version of the image, we'll see how he used to look. So this is the before version of the image. If I press Control-Z or Command-Z on the Mac, we'll see the after version of the image, thanks to the healing brush and patch tools inside Photoshop.